no problem.
Today we're welcoming Dr. Ayşe Atasoylu for her speech, where she will be talking to us about her long journey in medicine and medical education and give career advice to medical students and future physicians. Before we begin, I would like to shortly introduce Dr. Atasoylu to our students. Dr. Atasoylu is a physician specializing in internal medicine and medical education. She has been a faculty member at Harvard Medical School for over 2 decades. After graduating from Türk Maarif College in Lefkoşa, she pursued her medical education and subsequent postdoctoral training in the United States. She is continuing her career at Harvard Medical School, and today she is delighted to speak to you about following your dreams, being a doctor, and creating a meaningful life. Before Dr. Atasoylu starts her speech, I would like to invite our Dean, Professor Nahide Gökçer, for her welcoming speech.
Dear Ayşe Hoca and dear future doctors, it gives me great pleasure to welcome you to our Career Days event. We are organizing Career Days as a part of Eastern Mediterranean University's efforts to widen the perspective of future medical graduates towards the variety of career paths open to them and give them the environment to inquire about the excellent training opportunities offered by the different areas of medicine. With this event, future physician candidates are aimed to meet with our physician guests, first Professor Dr. Ayşe, and now Dr. Ayşe Atasoylu, who have chosen different career paths after their medical education and offer them a greater understanding of the world they will be a part of in the future. I hope that by meeting with Professor Ayşe and Dr. Atasoylu, our students will be inspired to work hard and commit to their pursuit of their future goals. I would like to extend my deep thanks and utmost appreciation on behalf of all Faculty of Medicine to Dr. Atasoylu for accepting our invitation and to all participants who made this event possible. Best regards.
Thank you, Hocam. Now I would like to invite Dr. Ayşe Atasoylu for her speech.
Thank you, Gülcem, and thank you, Dr. Gökçer, for inviting me and for including me as part of the EMU Faculty of Medicine family. And I welcome everyone here to this interactive presentation. I'm hoping that folks will ask questions, and you can stop me at any time to ask questions by unmuting yourself and asking the question, or waiting till the end when we'll have some time dedicated for questions. So I gave this title, Following Your Dreams, Becoming a Doctor and Creating a Meaningful Life. And hopefully this presentation will help you on your path to becoming a physician, or if you haven't yet decided on going into medicine. I know some high school students were also invited to this presentation. Then maybe it can help you think about becoming a doctor. So my goals here are to help you consider a career in medicine and what that might look like for you, and to help you cultivate self-awareness, reflecting on life's many possibilities. I prepared this presentation with the following participants in mind: secondary school students considering medical school students at EMU and elsewhere planning postgraduate training in residency and fellowship, and for faculty who are already trained and teaching. If they're interested in personal and professional development, this presentation will be helpful to you as well. My outline includes self-discovery as you make your career choice, medical education, becoming a doctor, enjoying the journey, reevaluating along the way, and tips for career and life success. These are my 10 tips, which I'll share with you at the end, and there'll be time for questions. So a common question that we're all asked as children is, what do you want to be when you grow up? And you might be asking that question to yourself at any point in your life, usually early on. What do I want to do when I grow up? And this might be a time to reevaluate what you're already doing, or if you're embarking on a career choice, thinking about, what do I want to do? So there's a point in one's life when you have to kind of ask these questions to yourself and to be honest with yourself. Who am I? And I don't mean to be philosophical here. What I'm asking is for you to really know who you are and what your likes and dislikes are, what you care about, what your values are. How do you like to spend your time? What motivates you? Do you like thinking high level picture, or do you like being broad or focused? And this will help those who are medical students think about what kind of career after medical school, what kind of residency, what kind of specialty that you would like to choose. Do I like thinking about systems or people? And do I like working with people and being part of a team, or do I like to work alone? And for those considering a specialty where there might be procedures involved, do I like working with my hands? So if you want to deliver babies or do surgery, or if you want to do a procedure, cardiac catheterizations, or being a gastroenterologist and doing gastroenterology procedures, you might want to think about, do I like to work with my hands? So setting an intention, what I'd like to do now is for everyone at this presentation to just take a moment and think about where you are right now, and not literally physically where you are, but where you are in your life right now, and where you want to be in 1 year. And just take a moment, I'll just give you a minute to write down for yourself the answer to this question. Where do I want to be in 1 year? I hope everybody's writing. And you don't have to share what you write. This is for you. It's part of your own reflection and self-discovery. So somewhere along the way, you're going to get to know yourself better, and your environment's going to change. Your priorities are going to change. But you always have the opportunity to rethink what you're doing and redirect yourself, to tweak your position. And this applies to anyone at the early part of their career or later in their career. With awareness comes choice, and pausing to reevaluate will help you see where you are now and what will serve you well. And most importantly, to love what you do, because if you don't, the journey is much more difficult. So I was introduced as a physician. And so this means I'm a physician, I'm a doctor of medicine, and I specialize in internal medicine and medical education. And through this talk, I'll share with you why I made those choices. And everybody's choice for choosing their specialty is very personal. But by knowing yourself, you'll choose a specialty that fits you the best. I chose a career in academic medicine, so I see patients and teach medical students and residents at Harvard Medical School. So how did I get here? People ask me this question all the time. So going from point A to point B, and then to point C and point D, or going round and round in circles. So we know that when we set our intentions, going from point A to point B, is not always linear. There are different paths we could take. And through self-awareness, we could decide at different decision points where we'd like to go. So where did I start? Where was my point A? My point A was right here in Lefkoşa at Türk Marif Koleji. And sometime in the 6 years that I was at this secondary school, I decided I wanted to be a doctor. My parents were not physicians, but when I started reading about the body, the human body, and health and disease, that motivated me to read more. And I always wanted to help people. So the two came together very nicely. And at Türk Marif Koleji, I received a very excellent education, and I had mentors and role models that helped me along the way. So who were these people? I want to mention some of my role models. My history teacher taught me about stories behind dates. My biology teacher encouraged asking questions. My mathematics teacher emphasized clarity and commitment. My art teacher, creativity, and my English teacher role modeled patience. They might not have known they were doing this at the time, but for me, when I look back, I use all of these qualities, all of these things that I learned in my medical practice and during my education in medicine. So I listen to patient stories every day, and you have to listen with a lot of patience. You have to ask a lot of questions of yourself and others. For clarity and commitment, my mathematics teacher would say, explain the process and commit to an answer, and take your answer and put it in a box and put an arrow pointing at the box. And I remember this so well. And today, when you're making decisions, when you're doing clinical reasoning, being clear about your thinking process and committing to a diagnosis or a differential diagnosis becomes very important. So all of these qualities, listening to stories, asking questions, having clarity and commitment, having creativity for problem solving, and having utmost patience serves me well today as I take care of patients. So medical education is a long journey. It's a lot of hard work with delayed gratification. So I ask everyone to know what they're committing to. And for those of you already in medical school, ask yourselves, why do I want to be a doctor? And what kind of doctor do I want to be? I'll review what medical education looks like in the United States. For most of you leaving high school and going to medical school in the UK, in Europe, or Turkey, you go directly from your high school or your secondary school to medical school. But in the US, you go to undergraduate education first, and you spend 4 years doing pre-medical studies. And these are the prerequisites for your application to medical school. Then you take the medical college admissions test, the MCAT, and you apply to medical school. You include a personal statement why you want to be a doctor, and then they invite you for interviews, and then they either accept you or don't accept you into medical school. Medical school traditionally is 4 years. That might be lengthened if you decide to do a dual degree program. So if you want to do an MD PhD or an MD Masters in Public Health or Masters in Business Administration or Masters in Public Policy, the length of your training might be longer. Then you have residency applications, which include a personal statement, your test scores, which I'll go into later. Then you're not invited for interviews, and there's a match. And the match is where the applicants, the medical school students, rank the places they would like to go from top to most interested to less interested. And the residency programs also rank all the applicants that they interviewed, and then they match them. And then there's match day, and it gets revealed where you go for residency training. Depending on the specialty you choose, residency training will be longer or shorter. So for internal medicine, it's a 3-year residency training, and fellowship training is what you do after residency, where you do a subspecialty. So if you go into internal medicine and you want to be a cardiologist, you will then lengthen your training to include cardiology, and that's your subspecialty, or gastroenterology or neurology subspecialties as well. So here, next slide. These are the United States medical licensing examinations. Step 1, Step 2, and Step 3. Step 1 and 2 are taken while you're in medical school. And this used to be 2 parts. Step 2 used to be 2 parts, the clinical knowledge and the clinical skills. Now the clinical skills part, due to COVID, has been canceled and probably permanently canceled. And then you take Step 3 after your first year of residency, which is called your internship year. After you finish your residency, you then sit for your board examination, which in my case was the American Board of Internal Medicine. And if it's another specialty, it would be the American Board of Surgery or the American Board of something else. And if you have a subspecialty, there's another exam for your subspecialty. And then you get recertified every 10 years. So you take the exam, and then every 10 years, you would take the exam again, a modified version of the first exam. And then there's continuing medical education. So after you finish your training, learning doesn't stop. You continue to take courses, and then specific states you're living in the United States may have specific requirements for licensure regarding continuing medical education. And then you evaluate yourself. You say to yourself, what are my strengths, and in which ways do I want to grow? So you might do this annually and decide which courses you're going to take and improve your knowledge or other skills, technical skills. So for me, my journey, I left Türk Maarif Koleji. I went to a college in Vermont. I did my undergraduate education there. College is 4 years. I was really focused. I wanted to finish early, so I finished early. I did research while I was an undergraduate. And then after graduating from college, I decided to continue doing research for a couple of years at Dartmouth Medical School. So I was at Bennington, then went to Dartmouth, and then went to medical school, where I continued to do research. And in my self-exploration, I was deciding, did I want to be an oncologist? Did I want to be, most of the research I was doing was immunology, oncology. And I decided along the way that I wanted to be a generalist, because I wanted to be the person diagnosing the problem and not be at the other end where the problem was already diagnosed and sent to me. So for me, during residency, I decided I wanted to be a generalist, but I wanted to stay in medical education. So I did a fellowship in medical education, combining that with public health training and research. And then I decided, all right, now it's time to get my job. And I applied to different jobs, and I ended up in Boston at Harvard Medical School. So what do I love most about being a doctor? Every day, I am privileged to meet people, to be entrusted with their most intimate concerns, and have the opportunity to, in some way, help better their lives. And this could be better their lives by doing a procedure to take out a foreign body. It could be bettering their lives by counseling them on weight loss. It could be to better their lives by managing their diabetes or hypertension. Or it could be just to sit with them when they're sad or anxious, to hear their story. So this is a real big privilege and immensely gratifying to be a physician, to be able to do this for your patients. And for my profession, why do I like or love my profession? So I get to problem solve. I get to figure things out. I get to put the story together, to do the physical exam, and to just really come to a conclusion about something. And that really, from a day-to-day work perspective, I love doing that. So if I love doing that, I get energy from my work, and my life is very satisfying. And then I already mentioned learning never ends, and in internal medicine, knowledge is always changing. And so it's a lifelong learning process. You're improving your knowledge, you're reading journals, you're writing, and part of being at an academic medical center is to contribute to the training of future doctors. And so from a day-to-day perspective, my life is very gratifying, despite the hard work. And what motivates me? So these are the questions I had asked you to ask yourselves. So my commitment to excellence, meaning trying to do the best job possible, is what motivates me on a day-to-day basis. You might think about that for yourself. So I want to pause again and ask everyone to just write down what their values are. Just a minute to write down your values. I'll give you a minute to do that. And this will help you as you think about your future career. Okay. So just a word about being the best version of ourselves, figuring out who we are and what ways we'd like to improve, what direction we'd like to take. And then being the best version of ourselves for our family, for ourselves, for our family and friends and students or others. If we're true to ourselves, so if we're living our life moment by moment based on our values, then the journey is easier and life has meaning. Living a meaningful life honors our values. So ask yourselves day to day, in what ways am I honoring my values? And a conclusion for this talk is crafting and reevaluating your own personal journeys. And this requires self-awareness and readiness for change. You don't have to have parents who are doctors to be doctors. And because your parents are doctors, you don't have to be doctors. I'd like to say this because if you do things because you want to do it, then it has more meaning. And if you do it because somebody else wants you to do it, it has less meaning. Now I'm going to give you my top 10 tips for success in life and career. So I always say, do what you love and love what you do. Be true to yourself. Self-care is very important. In a field where we're taking care of patients, in any field actually, if you don't take care of yourself first, it can be very depleting. So we say self-care should be at the top of your list to lead a balanced life, to avoid burnout. Set goals, achieve these, and set new goals. Ask questions, lots of questions of others and yourself. Be focused and anticipate challenges. Learn from your mistakes or disappointments. They will be there. We're not always going to have things the way we had planned. And just let them go. Don't allow these things to continue to occupy your head or your thinking. Surround yourself with people who add to your life. Be humble. Be grateful or appreciate what you have, your achievements, the people around you. And be generous. give back when you can. So even if you're a resident, you don't feel like you have much to give, you can teach a medical student. If you're a medical student, you can think about mentoring someone who's interested in going into medical school. So giving back is always important. Now I'll take questions. So what you can do is take the chat box here, I'll stop the share, and you can either chat a question to me, or you can unmute and ask a question out loud. And we have about 35 participants, and I'm all open to all kinds of questions.
Good afternoon, Doctor.
Good afternoon.
Hi, I really enjoyed the presentation. Thank you very much.
You're welcome.
So I have a question about going and doing residency in America.
Yes.
So I've heard that getting into the matching kind of system is incredibly hard. And I was just wondering, what are your tips to strengthen that kind of application, or what is required from me to do in this like application or this journey to getting towards a residency spot in America?
So first, you have to take the USMLE exams. You know about this, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. Yeah.
Yep. So some of this has now transitioned to pass-fail grades, which may be to some people's advantage and some people's disadvantage, because schools would look at those scores when inviting for interviews. So scoring high on the USMLE is often an advantage. So that's one, but now that it's pass-fail, it's not going to be helpful. The other is to have some kind of clinical experience in the US. Now with COVID, that's become a little bit hard. But before COVID, if you could do some kind of observership or hands-on clinical experience, that strengthened your application. So when you apply for residency in the US, it's a centralized application system. You put in your personal statement and your letters of recommendation and your test scores and your GPA from your medical school. And that would all be processed, and each school has its own criteria. But basically, when you're a foreign graduate, not non-US, non-Canadian graduate, it's harder to get in. So you have to be, at the top of your game. So getting letters of recommendation from people who have worked with you. So when I say people who've worked with you, what year are you, Mariah? I'm sorry, I didn't hear you.
I'm in third year right now.
Third year of a 6-year
Yeah.
program?
Yes, that's correct.
So if you can have a longitudinal experience doing research where somebody has observed your commitment to the work and can speak on your behalf, that really does help your application. So a longitudinal experience in research, some hands-on experience within the US, preferably letters of recommendation, are ways to bring your visibility higher. And preferably, if you know which school you want to go to, what kind of training program you want to go to, if you have it at that training program, if you have these clinical experiences there, that helps you even more, because then the people internally are making those recommendations for you. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, it did. Thank you very much. I have another question, if that's okay.
Yes, of course. Yeah, go ahead.
So it's regarding.
I'm sorry, you're muted.
Sorry, it keeps muting. It's regarding surgical residency.
Yes.
And basically, I know that's even more difficult to get in, and that is what I mean, that's what I'm thriving towards right now. That's what I want to do in the future.
Yeah.
And so my question is, how do I strengthen my application for surgery particularly? Because I know it's way more competitive than the other residency programs.
That's correct. So I would start off by looking at programs. You can find this all online. Looking at programs, surgical programs that accept foreign graduates. That's something that you can do right now by just doing web searches. You look at the residency list. In the residency list, it'll show you where the residents graduated from, which medical schools. And if you see programs that have a higher number of foreign medical graduates within the surgical specialty, residency specialty, then those would be the places I would target to do some kind of clinical experience so that you could be known by them. And so that would be number one. The other, if it's too hard right now because of COVID to have clinical experiences, to even just start making connections through professional networking sites like LinkedIn is really helpful. The other is wherever you are, where are you currently?
I'm studying in Cyprus in EMU.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah.
So you're going to be at Marmara next. And so I would start contacting Marmara faculty to see if they know people within the US to give you recommendations of who to contact. So, this is about starting slow and building your network, and then thinking about how can I better my application, which is great. You're already thinking along the right lines, but you have to show a track record of something. And with COVID, that's kind of difficult right now. So do something within your environment. So if you're at EMU here and you're going to go to Marmara next, try to make your links to Marmara strong now, so that when you get there, you can work with some surgeons who are doing research projects or who are, can maybe mentor you about contacts within the US. So that's where I would start.
Thank you so much, Doctor. I really appreciate your advice. Thank you.
You're welcome. Mm-hmm. Let me look at the chat box quickly.
Questions in the chat box, Ajay.
Thank you so much. So Khan Chelik is asking, what are your personal recommendations for students who are in medical school in Europe and would like to work in the United States after graduation? So you're in medical school in Europe and would like to work in the United States after graduation. You probably heard my response to the other gentleman's question. So let me see if I can add anything else to what I've already said. Okay, one thing I would like to say is many times people want to go to the United States, but they don't think about what's in their own environment that's also very good. So it's the phrase like the grass is greener on the other side. So we always want to go somewhere else, but you might want to just right now, because of COVID, just stay where you are and be the best you can be where you are. And then as the COVID restrictions lighten up, then maybe you can go overseas and do those experiences. So this is an unprecedented time. And I don't want to discourage you from going to the United States. It was certainly the right choice for me. But I want everybody to also say, like, I'm just going to be the best I can be wherever I am right now, and then the rest will come. So in addition to that, if you're really wanting to go to the US, start doing the things that I mentioned earlier, start creating a network for yourself, depending on what year you are, Khan. Create a LinkedIn profile if you don't already have one. Link in with me, anybody who wants to link with me, that's great. Then you can start developing a network and you can ask questions of people around you. So those are my advice. That's my advice for Khan. Betu, what's some pros and cons of being a doctor in the US coming from Europe? I know many doctors who came from Europe and at different points in training. So some people come for postdoctoral research. Some people come for residency or fellowship. Some people come for academic positions. Pros and cons. It depends. I mean, it depends on what people are looking for. So you have to, again, know yourself. What are you looking for? But if you're looking for an opportunity to broaden what you're doing, be in a different place, maybe you have a particular area of research or clinical work that you want to pursue, and the right place to go is in the United States to Texas, or United States to Boston, or California. So it depends on what the pros will be what you're interested in. The cons, you're far away from home, if home is in Europe or Asia, and it takes adapting. But for most of us, who've pursued a career in medicine, we're adaptable people. We go into many different situations and we adapt. So there aren't a lot of cons to going there. I think it'll be a great experience, Betul. Is it possible to come to the US for research and doctorate thesis as a doctor outside the US? Absolutely, you can do that. You can look for research fellowships. Many people do it. And they could be long or, long degree programs or short programs. Is the GPA important? Should be 3.5 for US. I don't know what it should be, but try to get your GPA as high as possible. That's what I would say to anybody. Like, try to be the best for yourself. That's my approach. For USMLE study, what is your recommendation? I'm studying now with books only for step 1. Yeah, I mean, USMLE study, I'm not the best person to answer this question, but I would say books are fine. There are Q banks online. There are programs, there are different services you can use, but the most important thing I would say is to gain confidence, and that is through answering lots of questions. So study hard, study more than you need to, keep studying. That's my recommendation. And honestly, if you're studying medical school, the USMLE, it's the same stuff, right? You just have to make sure you're a good test taker. That's another thing, right? That's a whole different area, being a good test taker. And let's see, are there other questions? Did I miss anybody? I think that's all. Let me check who's online here. Anybody else? Questions? I'm sorry, I don't see everybody's face. That's sad. Okay, let's see. All right.
Doctor, can I ask something?
Of course, Khan, go ahead.
First of all, thank you again for having this lecture. I really enjoyed it and to listen. One quick question. You mentioned LinkedIn a few times. I never used LinkedIn, and could you maybe describe it quick how we could use LinkedIn at its best?
Sure. Thank you for the question, Khan. So you all are very familiar with social media. I hate social media. It takes up too much time. But LinkedIn is a professional network. You can go to linkedin.com. You don't have to pay anything unless you want a more advanced version of it. You create a profile and you start building a network of people who you connect with all over the world, really. And so how do you build that? I mean, I think genuine invites are the best. So Khan, form one tonight, send me an invite, I'll accept you into my network. So this is the way it works. And so as you meet people, Khan, or anybody, you will then send them an invite and say, like to be connected to you. And then LinkedIn has a lot of other features, which I won't go into, but you'll learn as you go into it to follow different institutions or programs or people So it is meant to have the same qualities, let's say, as, let's say, Facebook, but on a professional level. So you wouldn't post what you're eating on LinkedIn, but you would maybe post an article or a interesting book you might have read, or links like this, professional links.
Great, thank you very much.
You're welcome. All right, if there are no other questions, Hocam, Nahid Hoca, do you have any questions?
It was fancy, really. Thank you very much. It is informative and impressive, really. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you, Gülcem, and thank you everybody for participating. Be well.
For our students,
Thank you too, Hocam.
I have one final question.
Of course, yep.
Sorry. So my question is, it was regarding what Khan said. How do we send an invite to you on LinkedIn?
Oh, you'll see my name on this announcement. It's Ayşe Atasoylu. You just go in there and you say, connect, or you can write a personal message. I was at your talk today. Can we connect? Something like this. And then that comes to me and I just say accept, and we can communicate that way.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much.
So if
Doctor.
you
Thank
have,
you.
you're welcome. And so if you have future questions, you can connect with me on LinkedIn and I'll answer your questions.
Again, I really appreciate this presentation. Thank you.
Sure. Mm-hmm. Oh, there are my great friends, Özde, İpek, Betül. Thank you for your comments, everybody. It was a pleasure being here with you today, and I wish you success and happiness.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you.
okay, thank you so much, and thank you for your valuable suggestions. Thank you for being with us today.
Any question or comment? No comment, no question more. Thank you.
Okay, guys, if you don't have any more questions, we're going to end the session. I don't think they're asking any questions, they're just saying thank you. Okay. Okay, then Nahid Hocam, I think that this was it. I'm going to end the session now.
Okay.